won nationally. We saw a lot of upsets in terms of the members going to Congress. 100 women are going to be in Congress now. That's a record. Yet again in California, as we've seen in previous election cycles, the numbers went down. Chances are right now we're going to lose 2 seats. We'll be at 30 women in the state legislature. We have not been at that level since 1998. So we're continuing to see a decrease, and as I mentioned in past interviews, that's scary to me because we have new term limits. So women who were elected and men who are elected either this election cycle or the previous election cycle will serve for up to 12 years, which makes it rather difficult if we're seeing a decline in the number of women to really make those seats up later.
And have you gotten any sense of where the seat loss came from? Are less women running? Are they not getting the support they need to actually win these races?
Well, it was interesting. I think we had some very strong women candidates. We never seem to have enough women running, and that has always been one of the problems that we had. We are not going to see a surge of women getting elected to the state legislature until we see a surge of women on the ballot. There were a couple of seats. For instance, in Orange County, you did have 2 women running against each other, which was phenomenal. Even statewide, 2 strong women running for state controller. But really, I think there are a couple of factors. One is there were some women who really decided to run their campaign kind of from a national perspective on this war on women. And I don't think that resonated. And I think we saw that nationally it didn't resonate. And I don't think that resonated here in California as well. Some of the women, surprise women who ended up winning their elections, who folks probably, they weren't in that win column going into election day, they ran on the economy, they ran on jobs, they ran on being pragmatic when it comes to making decisions, and those were the ones who ended up being victorious. So I think that says something, number one. Number two, I do think that there still is a notion that it is harder for women sometimes to run and get elected. There were other women who weren't getting the funding, weren't getting the support, because there's still a lot of politics that is played, particularly at the state level with some of the special interest groups and the independent expenditures. Those seem to tend to go more towards the male candidates than towards the women candidates, even if the man and the woman candidate were from the same party and came from the same background and had the same perspective when it came to the issues.
That's so interesting. So favoritism also.
A little bit, I think so. A little bit of favoritism. I still think it's harder for women. You know, it's this age-old thing, and typically it's the women who don't support the other women. And that's something that we as women really need to think about, is if we do want to see women making strides in terms of leadership positions in politics, whether at the local level or at the state level, as women, we really need to come together in a bipartisan manner and figure out how can we support each other. My philosophy is always that every district in California is a woman's district. We can find a woman who can be competitive and fit every single legislative district. It takes a lot of work, and it's going to take women collectively coming together to try and make that happen.
There's been criticism, again, the legislature, our state is more or less 50% female. The legislature does not reflect that. And same with diversity. We have very few women of color who are serving. And did you see any kind of, I know Betty Yee is duking it out, but have you saw other races in terms of increasing California's diversity and just representatives?
Yeah, actually, Southern California. 3 women from, first Vietnamese woman was elected, Janet Nguyen. Young Kim was elected, Ling Ling Chan was elected. So that brings a new diversity. That's in the Republican caucus, because actually the Republican caucus picked up more women than the Democrat caucus. And so that says something. We had a lot of strong, really diverse women candidates on the Republican side that were victorious. Autumn Burke was victorious, African American from Los Angeles. So we did see some pickups in terms of diversity, but we still have a very long way to go where that is concerned. We're at 20-25% now of the state legislature. We stayed even in terms of statewide offices. We held 5 going into this election. We're still at 5. But the other important thing is looking forward to 2016, looking forward to 2018. 2016, there's a real possibility we could have an open U.S. Senate seat. What women are gearing themselves to making a run for that? Are we gonna be able to replace first state in the nation to send 2 women to the US Senate? Will we be able to continue that trend? And then obviously, it's funny to talk about the day after the election, but people will, which is 2018, and who's in that pipeline to run for governor? Will we have women ready to take on that challenge, and will California elect its first woman governor?
And certainly I've heard some criticisms about the idea that women, especially older women, there's this gap of kind of female politicians in the 55 to 40 range, just because we do have in Congress these women who have served for such a long time, and kind of trying to find a way to bridge these generational gaps. And I know, at least in the legislature, you have the Republicans, Conway stepping down, but another woman's replacing her.
Mhm.
Do you feel like there tends to be strongholds of once a woman holds an office, another woman would be able to come back in, or is...
You know, in a perfect world, that's what would happen. In a perfect world, we would have women who are serving in these positions, especially these leadership positions. And our philosophy, particularly at California Women Lead, is that we want to help women be successful in the political arena with the understanding that you're going to extend the hand